Good evening, everyone. This is going to be the journal entry for today, August 29th, 2025. So I'm going to go ahead and go over I think, two trades I took today, as well as maybe a quick update on the ones that I'm swinging. So first off, the trade I tried to take today and unfortunately did not go my way was Palantir. Palantir here on the day. The setup was initially, if you can see, a 2 down green hammer, so hoping that we could trigger on the day and then go 2 up hit here. Please note that the week is pretty much an inside week and the month was a kind of a doji at this point. Again, solely a Friday day trade, so hoping to get kind of like a magnitude up here. Palantir is known to kind of, a big mover, so just something to try out in terms of what I was going for. So the first hour or first 30 minutes, we did get that kind of poke 2 up. So 2 up at that point was in force on the day, or for a second at least. So once it goes 2 up on the day, I'm a little bit interested. I'm waiting for a TTO or some kind of rev strat to bring price back up, put it back in force, and perhaps go for those targets above and get magnitude. So first setup I was thinking about was Palantir here on the 30, 322, right? Unfortunately, it did trigger, and unfortunately, when the signal went back below, that probably was the best way to stop out of the trade. I decided to stay in it for longer. I'll just go ahead and note here for you guys. Just something that I talked about with a couple people as well. Let me just go ahead. Sorry, place the right here. Okay. So here, and on the Fiverr. Okay, on the Fiverr here. So the thing to note here is that I took the trade just based off of the Fiverr that closed above the signal line. What I failed to recognize and what I should have realized earlier is that the area right here, this line, is the daily open. What I should have actually waited for is for an additional confirmation or confluence, like what I call it, is if the price closes above the daily open. That's what I should have waited for as an additional requirement before entering the trade. And that would have basically saved me a lot of headache, because you can see that price kind of went up. I held the position just because I recognized that the price was just kind of in this kind of range stuck area. If you notice, for example, I'll draw the box, the high, swing low. Price is pretty much just trapped in here, and even at one point, price tried to go down, didn't close, got bought back up. At this point, it has an attempt. It broke out, was able to close above the range here, and it just did not have the strength to really do much, which is expected of an inside week. So this was mostly a trade that was based on Palantir, the daily signal, and perhaps getting a big move, just like I know Palantir can sometimes. So eventually it got stopped out. It was next week's contracts, no zero DTs, nothing crazy. And at the end of the day, I had the decision on whether I wanted to swing this over the weekend and the holiday or to keep it. So that's really just based off of, hey, what does it look like in terms of, am I gonna, be closer to, do I want to hold this for a swing? Is it looking like, there's a possibility of going up? And, on the month it's doji. On the quarter it's still 2 up in force. But in terms of a setup on the day, this is really just kind of in my mind, a failed 2 up on this day. Okay, now we have 2 up or 2 down. Sorry, a 2 up red failed, and there's a possibility since last week is inside, to try to create a new low and expand the broadening formation, or at least hit the bottom here at this point. Today would have definitely been the opportunity to try to take this up, right, and hold above this area. That would have been a nice setup for next week. But it is what it is. I decided to cut the rest of my position for a small loss. I think down roughly around 15% on the options. I just figured, hey, if I'd rather just have that cash, if another setup presents itself, one is theta decay over the weekend and the holiday, and the second thing is I'd rather just be in a better looking setup to swing over that time. The position I took today that I'm still holding, UNH, this one I actually took both 0 DTEs and I also took, what do you call them? next week's contracts as well. So let's look at the setup on UNH and why I like this for a swing as well as for a day trade, right? So on the day trading side, you have a 1-2-2 setup, right? And this triggered very early in the morning as well, as we'll take a look. So what's the magnitude on 1-2-2? Obviously it's this, but if you look at your 1-2-2 rev strat, the actual magnitude of it is the bar behind the inside bar. So this one right here, right? I mean, this is definitely a target, but this right here is the actual magnitude. If we get anything else than that, it's more of a bonus. But you see on the week, right? If this works, what can we do on the week? We can put this 2 down failed green and turn this into a hammer, right? What's the setup for this week, right? Well, next week. 2 up here. This is the next magnitude. And what's that going to do? Oh, the next month, sorry. Next month is occurring pretty soon, right? So next month, right, we have 3-2-2 to the upside. And what's the magnitude there? Oh, a domino trade up to here, right? And then, oh, wait, if we get up there, what's that going to create? Perhaps it'll set up for next month a possible 2 down green hammer, right? Or even if it just goes 2 down green failed, right? It'll set up for next quarter to continue going up. So this is a great trade, an example of one that you want to hold for a long time. Give yourself plenty of time for this to occur, right? You know, you've got basically the domino effect, right? Okay, 1-2-2, this is going to bring it up. If this triggers, it's going to set up a nice looking candle for next week. And if this triggers and goes, right, oh, it's going to hit my trigger for next, quarter. And from there, you know, the magnitude on next quarter is all the way up to 607. Is it going to happen in one quarter? Anything can happen, but this is the kind of trades that we look for, right? The amount of magnitude you can get from here to here, from here to here, from here, all the way up here, right? So I like this. I like just basically to see all that occurring. So that's why, on the day I'll take some 0 DTEs because they're very profitable, and on the day, or on a swing opportunity wise, there's a lot of upside where I can just hold it, and let it just keep going up and up and up. So obviously, if you're looking at the hour and the 30, it was a very obvious, like, just be patient. I mean, on the 30, it looks very choppy, kind of scarily choppy. But if you're looking on the hour, you have this 3 double inside break up, and this thing just launched from there. So unfortunately, I just got a little bit too carried away. I took an initial small entry here on, because I was trying to be quick draw McGraw. I was saying like 3-2-2-2 down green, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try a small position right here, because maybe today's just really strong. We're gonna get like a quick move all the way up here and then just dump. Instead, this was the quick move up here, hit ADR, and then just immediately started reversing. I mean, there's 2 ways to go about that. When you see this 3 down that reverses your 2 up entry, you can be out right there and just take a small loss. For me personally, I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna hold it because I like, if it goes my way, I'll take it. If it doesn't go my way, I'm still okay to hold it as long as the day stays, somewhat green. I want to give it some time, like green in terms of like not just being down here for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but actually showing some continuation of the bottom side and potentially even using the low of the day as a stop if this wants to really just fail. So you can see that price just was kind of like right from the open here, went straight down, came up a little bit, bounced off the VWAP area, went straight down, and then once it pretty much took out the daily continuity and flipped it, pretty much price just kept going and going and going. So it's important in this case, right? Before we enter here, right? I mean, I'm watching the 30s, but they have a 2-1-2, so maybe you can get in here at this point. But I mean, looking at the hour, it's definitely probably the better entry, right? Because even if you get in, you're kind of getting chopped up in this, annoying ass area right here. But when this kind of appears to you here, right, this 2-1-1-2 right here, this is like your obvious, more like let's get in entry. Obviously, you could have taken, smaller position here, and when this confirms, you can add and just really size up in this area. But things to know, right? Okay, if you enter here, what's your line of defense and what are your targets, right? So let's say here, here. Okay, so entry would have been like right here, and you also had like a little 2 down 5er to kind of confirm. This closes above VWAP, so you've got multiple kind of, let's say, lines of defense. This is the 9:30 candle, right? So this is the hour right here, the bottom of the hour in terms of like the first candle, right? A close behind, like below these moving averages, you got a 5, 10, 20, right? You got VWAP and you have your like hourly here. If close below here on a fiver, that's definitely like, oh shit, because you just knocked out like, you know, your whole wall of China in terms of like defenses here, right? So that would have been the line of defense. Now, what are your targets, right? You want to identify both, right? Because if our like lines of defense are really close by, right, which is good in terms of having low risk, we also want to make sure our target isn't just, really close by. So target wise, obviously you have high of day, so you can that can be a target for you as well. But beyond that, right, we talked about what is the magnitude of 122 up here. And sometimes we also talk about, if your targets are really separated, right, you don't have total confidence, especially if the stock is not something that just moves like Palantir sometimes. So what I like to use is this kind of indicator right here. It's called the pivots traditional auto. What it does is just gives me pivots. You guys can look up on Google what pivots are, but they're just basically kind of like segregated areas where you can expect a lot of profit taking or lines of defense. And like honestly here, right, you see this pivot right here, bounce off the pivot and just rode up. This is a pivot here, came down near it, bounced up, right? This was kind of like we're stuck in the high of day area. Are we going to break out or just crap out? And we definitely saw this nice looking candle. I'm going to guess it's on pretty nice volume. Yep, this area is a really nice volume. And that's what we want to see, right? As we approach kind of like a area of high resistance, we see the volume kind of just increasing, stair-stepping its way up until we get to the point where, okay, are we going to break it or not? And when we get to that area where we're like, okay, are we going to break? We see high volume, which is what we like to see during a breakout, right? Let's contrast this real quick, sorry guys, with Palantir, right? So Palantir, as it's approaching this breakout zone, right, that we mentioned, right, is the volume there? Not really. Where's the volume at, right? We're approaching like a breakout area and it's nowhere to be seen. And then we finally break out and it's like, oh, right? So that's kind of like your warning signal of like, this is going to be a fake breakout. This may not be something that comes to fruition. If I have a position, right, this might be an area where I just want to get the F out on a nice little profit and just collect my coins, put in something else, because this is not a good sign, right? Especially when you have a retest. On a retest, you don't want the volume, like when I say retest, you get to the breakout, right? You go above this kind of like, up and down whipping like, area of price, but then, right, as the price kind of retests that like top of the area and cuts through, you don't want that to have continuing high volume, which is what you see, right? The price just really just sells back below, and we create what's called a false breakout, right? Again, let's compare that to UNH, right? UNH, as you're approaching, you see these green bars ticking up, 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 and when you get that nice breakout out of the range, boom, high volume, right? So that's what we want to see. And then we hit first target here. So I took, right at this area, I took a good profit here. I pretty much closed out like all my 0 DTEs. I think I left like 10-20% remaining, just because at that point, like, maybe we might get the next one, maybe we're not, but we have literally like 10 minutes left. But at that point I was already up on my contract, so sometimes we get those late last minute moves, sometimes we don't. I pretty much just set it for like market order if it hits this pivot, and then in the last like 5 minutes I got my target, which is it's kind of cool. I mean, I was going to be up either way. I was going to sell in the last minute either way. Typically don't like to, cut everything so close like that. But in terms of my longer term contracts, and when I say longer term, I just mean next week. I'm looking at keep continuing raising the strike and adding to the position as we go along. And when we make kind of hit these targets and expect TTOs, right? I just want to take money off and put the coins in my bag. So as we make these TTOs or have like red days going down, which is expected because nothing just goes two up, two up, two up. Then I can just add to my position or put in additional contracts or adjust the strikes up, or give myself more time, so forth. So pretty much I took like a third of the contracts off at this target, and then I was like, okay, if I hit this target, I'll take another a third off. So I took that off, and I have about a third of the remainder of the position left, and all the 0 TTs are obviously gone. So setup's looking great for next week. I'm hoping to add in more to the position and continue raising the strikes so I can continue collecting and making good money on my options versus having them sit at the money. Yeah, So that was a trade with UNH, right? Again, I'm holding the contracts because I'm evaluating, right? Okay, what's the setup for next week look like? Ooh, that's great. Two down, failed green hammer, right? And if this works, what's the target? Okay, right here, right? And if that works, right, what can that do? Oh, right. We can trigger two up on the month, 322, and then hit the magnitude there. From there, you'll probably expect a bit of profit taking, maybe just trades inside, maybe it goes up. But you do have a really nice setup for next quarter, which is about a month away. So pretty cool there. So UNH, that's probably the trade of the day, and I only took two. Again, I'm trying to really limit what I take these days. I don't want to get caught up in like a whole bunch of these trades and a bunch of tickers I don't normally trade, and then I'm panicking to kind of like review the price, review the strikes, and decide what I'm in. Apple I decided to hold, right? I still have the contracts for next week on this one. This one made a great move. So set up for next week. You know, you have a 2-1-2 possible to the upside, two up continuation there. On the month, you have a 3-2 with definitely targets above. So we don't have too much exhaustion risk there. Obviously, next week's target is going to be initially here, and I've marked out additional targets, you know, as we go above. Am I going to hit them? Maybe, maybe not. I'm looking definitely forward to at least hitting this one, taking some off, and then hitting this major target where I'm going to take probably everything off, or you know, maybe leave one or two, or you know, sorry, 10 to 20% in terms of runners. Um, Also, still holding Visa. Visa's looking really great. Why do I like Visa, right? These ones are definitely longer term. I think I have at least 3 or 4 weeks on them. Why do I like it? Because you have an obvious 1-2-2 setup going on the month, right? What is the magnitude on a 1-2-2? We talked about this. I mean, obviously this is going to be the oneer here is going to be the magnitude, but definitely the bar behind it, which is all-time highs. Is that going to happen in a month? Maybe, maybe not, right? The quarter is still inside bar, right? I mean, if it stays inside and maybe it goes up slightly green for next quarter, that's fine, right? We got a 3-1-2 setting up, which that's even greater, or that's even better. If it goes potentially 3-2 up, um, continuation, I guess in this case, that'd be fine too. But just on the monthly signal, right? You're looking for that last week. You know, that's definitely something we want to look for. Is like, hey, what can we trigger for next week? And if we can get to the top of this here in that area, I'm definitely taking, you know, a bit off. I'm expecting maybe a TTO some sort at that point, which, you know, that's an opportunity to add, and then you can continue going up. So that's it. Apple, Palantir, UNHV. Really good trade on UNH today. Palantir was just kind of so-so. And again, those are kind of things what I'm looking for. I'm definitely not looking to trade too many quick action things in the morning. I really just prefer like, you know, looking for the setups that have good potential on a swing, as well as on the day, of course, and then just getting in. Like you notice, I'm not taking just random two up continuations. I'm trying not to take too many like fast-paced trades. Although you know, if it's stuff that looks good, I'm gonna take the money. But yeah, you know, um, obviously, there was other great stuff that people traded, like Tesla today on the short end was like massive, you know, which is very characteristic of Tesla on a Friday. This thing just freaking wrecked going down. You could have held this all day long almost and just made so much. Obvious setup on the week, right? You create a new high, so you basically have exhaustion risk, which leads to next week of a two down. Is this gonna trigger like on the month going down? I mean, maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Yeah, that's about it. Happy weekend and happy Labor Day, everybody. See you guys back on Tuesday for the grind. Let me know if you guys ever have any questions, comment, smash that like button, like, comment, subscribe, and smash that like button if you want to see more. Thank you guys.